Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I had a whole bunch of people send me this story. It's out of Canada. Caleb, Doug, Jeff, and David, thank you very much from ctvnews.ca. This is something that theoretically could happen here. And we're not even sure if it happens there, though. And that's the thing we got to be careful about, because there's two sides to this story. What the guy says happened to him is one side. The police say it happened a little differently. However, the headline is, very expensive lunch. Saskatoon driver says he got a cell phone ticket for using his points app in the drive-thru. And we have heard about this. I've heard about this before. Someone being ticketed for doing something in a drive-thru at a restaurant where you're on private property, you're not on the public roadway, but you are in a car on property that is open to the public. And that's where it starts getting into a gray area. So Carla Shinkaruk wrote this and says that this driver from Saskatoon is putting up a warning about using your fast food app while in the drive-thru line. So the trip to get some free lunch cost him a lot more than he bargained for. He said, I'm barely even moving. I pull up my app and look at the rearview mirror, and there's a motorcycle cop behind me. And that's him describing the moment he's pulled over, going through the McDonald's drive-thru in Saskatoon. He didn't think anything of using the app because he needed it to get the free lunch that he had earned through his reward points. He says, then the officer came to his window. I just go like this and show him I'm on my McDonald's app, loading up the code to get a free meal. He thought that'd be the end of it. He said, I didn't think he was just going to let me go because I'm just trying to get a free meal. I did think he was just going to let me go because I'm just trying to get a free meal. But no, it turns out to be a very expensive lunch. Now, he says the whole process was a catch-22. He needed the app to complete the order, and it's the first thing McDonald's staff ask you when you pull up. He says, I was kind of shocked, to be honest. I've never had that before. I open up my app every time I go over to drive-thru, and I've never had that issue. Now, here's the thing. In a statement to CTV News, the Saskatchewan RCMP disagreed with that man's version of events. They said they can confirm that on May 13th, 2024, the individual was observed driving a vehicle on a public roadway while using a cell phone. A combined traffic services Saskatchewan RCMP officer initiated a traffic stop with the individual. The individual then pulled into the McDonald's parking lot where the traffic violation was issued, according to the statement. So they're saying that he actually broke the law on the roadway, but pulled into McDonald's. He says, I first looked at my phone in the drive-thru actual line. So there's two different versions of events here. Because obviously, if he's using his cell phone or looking at a cell phone on the roadway, that's a different matter than him pulling it up and showing it to somebody in the drive-thru itself. So a local criminal defense lawyer says there's a lot of gray area when it comes to technology and the law. He says, I feel for the individual who was charged here if he was literally in the drive-thru area and not on the public roadway. I would venture to guess that a great majority of people would utilize their cell phones in lines such as this, and it shouldn't be considered illegal. But it's obviously debatable. Now, cell phone use while driving is clearly dangerous, but he questions the circumstances. Again, this is the attorney. Meanwhile, the man says he's only been driving for 2.5 years. He's a young driver. He's only had one speeding ticket in that time, and is very careful to keep his cell phone out of reach so he isn't tempted to use it while driving. He said, I didn't have my foot on the gas or brake. It was just rolling and barely moving. Despite what the RCMP says, he is sticking to his guns for now and says that, no, what happened was he first touched his phone in the drive-thru. So it's a $580 offense, $580, which, of course, for him is a lot of money. For most people, that's a lot of money. Of course, that's Canadian, so it's a little bit less than $580 American. But he's most concerned about the demerits on his license. Of course, those are similar to points, I'm guessing, here in America. He said he feels strongly he shouldn't have to pay the ticket and is prepared to fight it in court. And that would be on July 31st for the court date on that. So what we have here is not a legal interpretation issue, okay? The police say we gave him a ticket for using his cell phone non-hands-free in traffic. He says, no, they pulled up to me and gave me a ticket because I was using my cell phone in the drive-thru. If he can prove that in court, I suspect he'd win. But of course, the cops can go, no, I saw him playing with, fiddling with his phone on the roadway before he pulled in. And so it then comes down to who the judge is going to believe on that. It becomes a credibility issue. However, you should be aware, and people ask me about this all the time, and I've covered this before. Can a police officer write you a ticket for something that you do exclusively on private property? I'm talking about a traffic ticket. And the answer is yes, depends on the ticket. And this will vary also from state to state, but in theory, the best example I can give you, I've done videos on this. You go into a parking lot. Let's suppose it's a holiday weekend and there's not a soul around. The world is empty as far as you can tell. So you pull into let's say a grocery store parking lot, a big old parking lot. It's acres and acres and acres of empty space. But it snowed recently. So you go out in the parking lot and start doing donuts in your car, spinning your car around, swinging you're having a grand old time doing donuts. Okay? There's snow on the ground. Okay? And of course you've been drinking. And a cop cruises along and says, excuse me, what are you doing? And you drunkenly tell the police officer, I'm doing donuts because they're fun. And the officer says, hey, I notice your eyeballs are doing this, and you appear to be intoxicated. And let's just say that you actually go, yeah, I am. You wouldn't believe how drunk I am. I'm lucky to be alive, okay? So the police officer has you step out of the vehicle. And let's say that you step out of the vehicle and you just fall over in an alcoholic faint. Just, And they take you to the hospital and they get a warrant and they draw your blood. And your blood is so far off the charts that they got to invent a new category for you, okay? They are surprised you're alive. Your bloodstream is more alcohol than blood, okay? But you were in a private parking lot. Can they give you? Yes, they can. Yes, they can. Many states say that the more serious offenses, such as drunk driving or reckless driving, or things that are very, very dangerous, can be written not just on the public roadways, but in places that are open to the public. So that would include parking lots that are not blocked off. And so you came by this parking lot, it's open to the public. You went in there. And by the way, the law makes sense because you don't want people doing dangerous stuff in their cars around other people and going, but you can't do anything about it because I'm on private property. So it just depends on where they draw the line where you are. And so in Michigan, I assure you, you can get a drunk driving ticket in a private parking lot. I've done stories about it in other states also, where somebody's driving across a road that turns out is not a public road in the sense that it's not maintained by the state or the county or the town, but everyone uses it. Therefore, it is open to the public. Now, stop signs. Some states say that if a Meijer or a Walmart puts up a stop sign on their property, entirely on their property, that the police cannot write a ticket for running that stop sign and call it running stop sign because that often is not a law that's considered to be dangerous enough to elevate to the open to the public rule. However, there are cases where states have said that if a private company or the people who run the property want to, they can strike a deal with the local municipality or local authority and say, we want you to enforce your laws on our property. And you can do that. However, it usually requires them posting more signs. So there need to be signage indicating that's the case. Because generally speaking, if you roll through a stop sign in a Walmart parking lot, it's not going to be a traffic offense. Now, that depends on the state you're in. Don't take my word. Don't go out and start running stop signs. I still encourage you to stop at stop signs. But you might say, but Steve, wait a second. If I roll through a stop sign, that could be a very dangerous thing. Oh, yeah. And so let's suppose you ran somebody over because you decided to roll through a stop sign. You're like, hey, I don't have to stop at the stop sign. The law doesn't say I have to. Well, guess what? That may be operating your vehicle in a dangerous manner. So here we go with a guy who says, I was driving along breaking no laws, pulled into the McDonald's parking lot, and while in the drive-thru for the first time, I picked up my cell phone and looked at it, and an officer saw that and ticketed me for that. If that version of events is true, I suspect that ticket will get tossed. However, the RCMP says specifically, no. Our officer said he saw the guy using the phone before he pulled off the roadway. And they claim that's what the ticket was written for. And if that's the case, it's a very different thing. And that would sound like it's a violation of the law if, in fact, you're not allowed to use a non-hands-free phone in traffic in Saskatoon. So I think the Guess Who wrote a song about that. Joking. So ctvnews.ca ran the story. Caleb, Doug, Jeff, and David, thank you very much. Carla Shinkaruk wrote that. Very expensive lunch. Driver says he got a cell phone ticket for using his points app in the drive-thru at McDonald's. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. If no one comes from the future to stop you, then how bad could it be?